Greetings, family. Told y'all I was going to be back at 9. It was a highly ambitious day. 3 lives in one day. So anyway, and this one's going to be a doozy. It might have to be done in parts. You feel me? But anyway, my name is Cassandra Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates, founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. You feel me? So this evening, which is also going to serve as the temple service. Greetings, Java. This is also going to serve as the temple service for the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. And I got books and props all around me for this discussion on this evening. Actually, let me do this. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Yeah, let me do this real quick. Okay, so I'm gonna change that to I'm just I wasn't intending on broadcasting this on my IG, but I'm actually going to. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. So, like I was saying, yes, this discussion is going to be one, honestly, that I think we might have to break down into some sections because it's a lot I don't know, dense than I anticipated when I came up with the idea today to do the thing. So the topic that I am talking about is, or the name of this live is Women of Color Stop Casting Spells on Your Daughters. That's the name of it. Women of Color Stop Casting Spells on Your Daughters. Okay? And the reason I decided this morning that this was a live I was going to undertake is multifaceted, but I will say this. I something came across my feed today. It was a panel discussion, which I mentioned earlier, and the panel discussion links are listed in the description box. But it was a panel discussion on healing the Black mother wound. So there's a lot of discussion, particularly in psychiatric and psychological spaces, about healing the mother wound, right? I have heard this used by people who come and receive therapy from me, treatment from me, sessions with me, whether spiritual or otherwise. People talk because now it's a common, phrase that people are using, healing the mother wound. Speaking of which, so this, I only watched a few minutes of this panel, this 2-part panel discussion today, but I was like, okay, what would be my approach to this question of the mother wound as the founder and high priestess of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence? What has been my position with people in general and women in particular who have come into sessions with me and they have deep unresolved trauma caused by their mothers. And here I am, facilitating and leading a goddess worshiping religion that is telling us to revere our mothers, revere the mother, and on and on. And I've had people even email me with this question, like, what do I do? how do I approach this question when so much of what I am attempting to heal from and recover from was caused by my relationship with my mother? I don't stop it. Don't y'all even goddamn start. Now. Shit. I don't understand your message. TREI. I don't understand. I don't know what that is. Anyway, so anyway, I debated for a while about what my approach was going to be because there were so many areas that I wanted to kind of factor into this discussion. And so I decided that I was going to approach this discussion first, or at least introduce this discussion from the perspective of a witch, from the perspective of a spiritual person, one who cut her spiritual teeth in the Ifa tradition. I had a very, 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 very long discussion with you guys about the Iami and the Iami Aje Oshirongo in Ifa tradition. So if you are interested in a much more deep understanding of who the Iami Aje are, then I would encourage you to go back to that video. It was maybe 2-3 months ago. But I did want to first talk about the power of the tongue. Again, from the perspective of a witch, from the perspective of a priestess, from the perspective of, that. Okay. I wanted to talk about the tongue. I wanted to talk esoterically about, because there's a reason that I called this topic "Stop Casting Spells on Your Daughters." Okay, because I mean literally casting spells on your daughters. Okay, so every tradition on earth, in one way or another, historically pays some attention to, some places some significant importance in the instrument known as the tongue. Not just the instrument known as the tongue, but there are in every tradition this acknowledgement of the relationship between the heart and the tongue. In Kemetic tradition, in Ifa tradition, in traditional Chinese medicine, and the esoteric aspects of the system like Taoism and Confucianism, in Hinduism and in Ayurveda, which is the medicine associated with Indian people, and the Bible. The Bible got a lot to say about the tongue and about the relationship between the heart and the tongue. The Bible got a lot, more than 50 scriptures about the significance of the tongue and the tongue's relationship to the heart. The Bible is full of it. So I was like, okay, let's start with the tongue. Okay. Now, why did I mention first the Iami Aje? The Iami. Okay. The Iami and the Iami, which I told you for those who have not seen the past videos, the Iami or Iami, which means my mother or my mothers, the Iami in Ifa tradition is essentially a way to kind of encapsulate the total power of the energy of the mothers. So when I mean encapsulate the total energy or the total power of the mothers, I'm talking about the celestial mothers. When I mean celestial mothers, I mean the Orisha, the forces of nature represented by represented by the by the feminine energy, right? So that the celestial mothers, the ancestral mothers, meaning all of those incarnations that are now ancestors who at one time in history existed in the flesh and is directly has a direct relationship with us, no matter how far they go back, because they are a direct ancestor of us. And so the celestial mothers, the ancestral mothers, the mothers that exist right now in this realm, and potential mothers that exist right now, and future mothers. This is what I mean when I say that the term Iami, my mothers, represents the collective power of the mothers. Okay? The Iami Age, and also, sorry while I pick my teeth. Also, when we talk about the Iami, when we just say the Iami, we are talking about what we recognize as the gentle, loving, caring, nurturing personification of the mothers. The Iami is a representation of those things that we come to love about our mothers, right? The nurturing, the caring, the carrying, the rooting for, the holding up, right? The feeding, the nurturing, the teaching, the nursing, all of those things that are the things that we identify as the source of our love for our mothers, right? This is the Iami. The Iami, like your own mama, has many personifications. She got many moods. She got many attitudes. You feel me? She's got many personifications depending upon what's happening in her life, what's happening in her body, what stage of development she is in her entire life. Is she a maiden? Is she a youth? Is she a crone? Is she a mother? So those things too contribute to the moods of the mothers, or the personifications, or the faces or phases of our mothers. This is the Iami. And like our own mama, you feel me? The Iami too have faces and phases and personifications and moods and attitudes based on what's happening in the world. This, depending upon the severity of what's happening in the world, is what can cause our loving, nurturing, nourishing, caring mothers into very mean disciplinarians. You feel just like your own mama. She give you the look, and you know that you done fucked up, and somebody else is coming through, right? This is what, and this is an oversimplification for those of you who practice E5. Don't come gunning for me. This is a very oversimplification so that the masses of people who are not involved in this tradition can understand what I'm talking about. Okay, this punishing aspect of the mothers of the Iami are called the Age, or the Iami Age, or the Iami Osorongo. Okay, these are the disciplinarians. This is I done told you, and I done told you, and I done told you, and I done told you. Now it's time for me to turn disciplinarian, because you ain't hearing what I'm talking about. So now I gotta come with a different attitude. You feel me? This is the Iami Age. The Iami, the Iami, according to the tradition, are the most powerful force in this realm. On earth, the most powerful force on earth are the mothers. That ain't a stretch. That ain't a stretch. The most powerful force on this planet is the Iami. Okay? The Iami, it is said, so this concept of the tongue, because I'm not deviating, still talking about the tongue, but I got to give you a preface. Okay? So the tongue in Ifa tradition, there's this concept called Ashe. This concept, in the way that it is perceived in Ifa, treated in Ifa, aligns with many other words that have the same characteristic. Chi, prana, what's another one? Those are the big ones I can think about. Chi and prana. Those are the big ones, right? Because some people mistakenly say that prana is the breath and prana is not the breath. No, it's not. Mm-mm. Prana is, it's said in the concept of pranayama that a person, this is the way I was taught. The saying goes, a person can live up to 30 days without food. A person can live 3 days without water. A person can live up to 2 minutes without air, but a person cannot survive a single moment without prana. Okay? So those of you who were taught that the prana is the breath, that's incorrect. And I learned from an Indian in India, from India. Prana is this imperceptible force that exists in everything. Rocks, sand, trees, it exists in everything. Okay? Ashe is the same. Ashe is the power of manifestation, but Ashe also exists in everything. And according to Ifa tradition, when you speak, which is a primary way that we create, speaking is a primary way that we create in this realm, that you are using the power of your Ashe when you speak. That Ashe is emanating from the truth that dwells in your heart, and the tongue is facilitating the exhale of that truth. This is Ashe. In Ifa tradition, some of y'all gonna have a problem with this, but I'm just telling you what it is. In Ifa tradition, it is said that the most powerful force on earth, the most powerful force, the most powerful Ashe is spoken from the mouths of Black women. This is what Ifa teaches us. The most, that we all have it. We all have the power of Ashe. But the most powerful and impactful force of Ashe is spoken from the mouths of Black women. That's not a stretch, because I just told you that the mothers are the most powerful force in this realm. The most powerful force for manifestation. That's not a stretch neither. Your ass is sitting here listening to me. You got your mama to thank for that. Whether you like her or not, you have your mother to thank for the fact that this personification on earth of you exists right now, listening to me, and your mama, you got to thank for that. If you can't thank her for nothing else, that you can thank her for is that I'm breathing, that I'm alive, that I'm a conscious being on earth right now in real time. You got your mama to thank for that. Backwards or not. Okay? Now, the reason I'm saying this is if the most powerful Ashe that exists in this realm is spoken from the lips of Black women, then it means that we have to be exceedingly mindful of how we wield that power. Hence, why I said today's discussion has to be women of color. Stop casting spells on your daughters. This was the starting point for me. This was the starting point for me. I told y'all many times the reason that I came to California in the first place was because a priest, an Ifa priest, told me that there is an elder woman in your family line speaking spells over your family line in her hurt and despair. She's not consciously casting spells on her family. In her hurt, in her feeling betrayed by her family, she has been speaking the spells that has impacted your family line. What does the impact of my family line mean? It means that this elder woman outlived all of her sons. All of her sons, including my dad, died violently, and all of them died before they were 40 years old. Every single one. That's what it means. And it means more than that. But that's what it meant when I came out here, was trying to understand why madness, mental insanity, or mental illness plagued my family in such a visceral way. Why the males on my father's side of the family died violently, though they were good men, from today's standards, and why they weren't lawbreakers and, built homes for their families and had jobs and did the thing. They all died violently, and they all died before they were 40 years old. And that was the beginning of kind of this idea, trying to understand the impact that our mouths have on those that we love. I won't get that deep yet, but I'm getting there. Okay. So that's the first discussion about the tongue, is the way women in general, because Ifa says anybody born with a uterus has powerful ashe, but Black women have the most powerful ashe, the power to create from our mouths on earth. Right. And so the reason I say women of color is there's something very specific that I am trying to address in women of color. I'm actually wrote down on my notes, I'm going to do a separate one around white women next week. Today, I'm talking about women of color. And I will be talking a lot about Black women, but I want you to know, if you are a woman of color, if you are Mexican, if you are Native, if you are Indian, if you are Asian, I want you to know that everything that I say is about all of us women of color. Okay? All right. So that's the first discussion about the tongue, is from an Ifa perspective about ashe, what we speak out of our mouths and its capacity to create, to have an impact, a permanent, long-lasting, matrix shifting impact, especially on whom that is directed. Okay, that's one thing. So now, switching gears from Ifa tradition, I wanted to talk to you about what your Bible has to say about the tongue. So I was going to try to scroll. Yeah, I will. I don't want to do a lot of sharing, because my connection is so janky anyway. It's like every little thing that I do becomes the basis for why there's these stalls in all my videos. Okay, so I have a bunch. I told you there was almost 50 verses in the Bible about the tongue, about the power of the tongue. But I am just going to, I think I'm just going to read James had a lot to say. As a matter of fact, a lot that he had to say is, if anybody got their Bible and want to follow along, James 2 through 10. So let me see. James 2. I ran out of my little sticky things. I could have just tagged it, but everything. Let's see. Here it is. Let's see. 7-Eleven. Okay, so I am going in the King James Version Bible to 7-Eleven. James verse 2 through 10. Verse 2 through 10. Every single verse from verse 2 to 10 is talking about the tongue. So we're going to talk about that first, and then maybe I'll read a couple of more that stood out to me about the significance of the tongue. Okay? This is verse 2 of James. My brethren, count it all joy when ye fall into divers temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire. Let's see. Is this the only? You know what? I'm tripping. It's verse 3. It's James 3. Sorry about that. I was like, this ain't it. James 3, verse 2 through 10. James 3, verse 2 through 10. Okay. All right. So this is verse 2. For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body. You heard? If you are able to hold your tongue, you are able to bridle your whole body. That's what it say. Behold, we put bits in the horse's mouth that they may obey. Listen, God dang y'all. Y'all. Listen. We put bits in the horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body, meaning we guide their whole body by putting bits, bridling their tongue, putting bits in their mouth. You feel me? We can we can control their whole body. Behold also the ship. Listen to this. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great, are driven of fierce winds. Let's see. Behold also the ships, which though they are so great and are driven by fierce winds, yet they are turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth. Meaning wherever the governor of the boat listeth, meaning wherever he turns the rudder, right? Wherever he turns the rudder, the helm of this massive ship will be moved by this small rudder. This is an analogy for the tongue. Okay? Even so, the tongue is a very little member and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth. Y'all ain't hearing. Y'all ain't hearing. A little fire kindleth. And the tongue is a fire. God damn it. The tongue, the tongue is a fire. The tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members. Talking about our body. It's talking about our body as the members. Let's see. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. For every kind of beast, and of birds, and of birds, and of serpents, and of things in the sea, is tamed and hath been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless ye God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men. He said, at the same side of our mouth, we will, bless God. We'll bless God and curse men at the same side of our mouth. With the same tongue, we'll bless God and curse men. That's what he said. Therewith bless we God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. What is he saying? He's saying, look, at the same side of our mouth, with the same wicked ass tongue, we will bless God. We'll say, praise the Lord. We'll bless God. And at that same mouth, with that same tongue, we will curse men who are made in the image of God. That's what he said. Okay. He said, out of the same mouth proceedeth blessings and cursings. My brethren, these things ought not so be. He said, brethren, this so let's see, this ought not be so. Doth a fountain send forth at the same time? Listen, doth a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter water? Oh my God. He said, look, can you get sweet water and bitter water from the same fountain? No. Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries? Either a vine, figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh. This is a word. Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge among you? Let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness of wisdom. But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, and devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. That's a word from your brother James right there. You feel me? That's a word from your brother James. Why did I read that? Let's see what else. Let's see what else these apostles got to say about the tongue. Hold on. Okay, we right here. Peter, verse 3. Peter 3, verse 10. Because we just a couple of pages away. Let's see what Peter got to say about the tongue. Hey, I got it highlighted already. I told you I was a good Christian when I was a Christian. My Bible's all marked up. Verse 10, for he that will love life and see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil and his lips that they speak no guile. Let him eschew evil and do good. Let him seek peace and ensue it. For the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous, and his ears are open unto their prayers, but the face of the Lord is against them that do evil. Okay, hold on. There was another one. There was a good one. Hold on, I wanted to read to you. John 3:18. Let's see what John 3:18 got to say up in here. Just walk with me for a minute because there's a point I am attempting to make. John 3:18. Okay. He that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth is not condemned already. Let's see. Because he hath not believeth in the name, blah, 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 blah. The condemnation of the light. Okay. Nah. Oh, okay. It was 19. Let's see. And this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men loved darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone... This ain't about the tongue, but damn. For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved. But he that doeth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in God. Oh, anyway, I think that's all. You know what? Let me do one more. Proverbs. Where Proverbs at? There we go. Proverbs 16:24. 16:24. Pleasant words are as a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health and healing to the bones. Sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. Okay, that's the last thing I'm gonna read from the Bible about that. But there, like I said, all you got to do is Google what the Bible say about the tongue, and there is no shortage of shit that comes up. Why did I read that? I read that because we're having a discussion about the tongue. Okay. The reason we're having a discussion about the tongue is because Ifa says that the most powerful tongues in this realm are those that rest between the lips of black ass women, the mothers of this domain. Okay. Power is what we embody. Power is what resides within us. The expression of that power comes from our hearts through our lips by way of the tongue. You feel me? Now, let's see what let's see what Barbara Walker got to say. I think this might be the last thing that I do to exhaust this intro, which is about the power of the tongue. Okay? So I've read this to you before, but we're going to read it, not the whole thing, but parts of it again in the book. And mine is falling apart. In the book, The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets by Barbara G. Walker. The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets by Barbara G. Walker. There is a section in this book entitled The Mother's Curse. So if you have this book, The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets, it's on page 199, but it's actually curse, comma, mothers. So don't look in M's, look in the C's, but it's The Mother's Curse. The Mother's Curse. Okay? And it starts out by saying, in ancient Asiatic beliefs, a mother's curse meant certain death. All death was brought about by the goddess's word of destruction, as all birth was brought about by her word of creation. There it is, right in the beginning. Right in the beginning. What does the Bible say? In the beginning there was the word. In the beginning there was the word, right? Okay. So her word of destruction and her word of creation. By virtue of motherhood, any woman could tap the verbal power of the goddess. The Markandaya Purana says, quote, "For all curses there is some remedy, but there is nothing anywhere that can dispel the curse of those who have been cursed by a mother." Listen, listen, listen. The title of this talk this evening is Women of Color, Stop Casting Spells on Your Daughters. Stop using the power of your ashe to cast spells on your babies. I'm saying daughters right now because it might be something that I talk about later in terms of women of color and their peculiar relationships with their sons. But women and their girl babies have an extremely different, peculiar, and most times toxic relationship that is based in their conditioning by the patriarchy to ensure that they bridle their daughters. That's what our behavior ends up doing, is bridling and stifling the power or the emergent power of our girl children. That's what it's for. Regardless of what we do it, why we do it, that is the result. Okay? Here she say, there is a remedy for every problem on earth, for every curse on earth, except for those who have been cursed by a mother. Except for those that have been cursed by a mother. You heard? Similarly, the biblical Hannah rejoiced when she became a mother, saying, quote, "My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies," according to 1 Samuel 2:1, because maternity gave her curses irresistible power. I got chills everywhere on my body right now. This is so powerful and true. I'm trying to heal our relationship now. It's so hard because she doesn't believe the power of her words. You hear me? Hannah say, as soon as I gave birth to my baby, my mouth is enlarged over mine enemies. Because in every tradition, even your Bible, it said that that childbirth, that motherhood gave a woman's curses irresistible power. You heard? Homer tells the story of Meleager, cursed by his mother for murdering her brothers. Falling on her knees, she knocked on the earth with her fist and called upon the underground goddess. Quote, and the fury that walks in the dark and has inexorable thoughts heard her from Erebus. End quote. The fury told Meleager's mother to burn his soul in the form of a wand, so he was stricken with a fever and died soon after. Witchcraft of this sort was not even listen. Witchcraft of this sort was not even necessary. The curse alone could kill. Let me tell you, I'm trying to teach y'all a word tonight. She say, look, she could have did all the extra shit, made the wand, made the little doll, stuck little pins in it, done the thing, done the ritual. She could have did all of that. That's cute. It'll still work. But according to tradition, that shit wasn't even necessary. That's why the title, Women of Color, Stop Casting Spells on Your Daughters. You don't have to be a, quote, practicing witch to condemn your child. You don't have to be a, quote, practicing witch, a practitioner of black magic. You could be a good Southern Baptist Christian woman and be casting spells on your child. Can be casting spells on your baby. She said witchcraft of this sort wasn't even necessary. The curse alone could kill. The curse alone could destroy. The curse alone could deviate a bitch's destiny. The curse alone could sabotage a bitch's life. The curse alone could cause insanity. Like in my family, my grandmother's pain and her suffering and her isolation has her speaking spells over her descendants. You heard me? You heard me. The curse alone could kill. The Greek word for the effect of a mother's curse was miasma. I talked to y'all at length about the miasma. Just revisit, because I did a whole separate thing called the mother's curse. It like a year ago. So look like a year ago, a year and a half ago, the mother's curse. The miasma, it says the Greek word for the effect of a mother's curse was called miasma, a kind of spiritual pollution bringing slow but certain destruction. Now, let me tell you about the miasma and spiritual pollution. We just had a conversation a few days ago about, remember, I was talking about, we were talking about music as a spell. Remember 7 days ago or so, I did a piece on music as spells, music as a spell. And so I came at it at both angles, how we can use music to cast a spell of hope, to cast a spell of certainty, to use music as a conspiracy, but also the things that show us that music can be used as a spell, has the impact of spell casting, right? And I was talking about Agatha all along when the girl, I think her name was Alice, found out that her mother wrote a specific song as a protection spell to cover her daughter from this generational curse that had plagued all the women in the family. You heard? Now, what did I say when we was talking about that? When we was talking about Agatha all along and this female she-demon generational curse that was riding this girl's shoulder, sabotaging her motherfucking life, that was a generational curse, a demon, a generational curse that plagued only the women in her line. The only thing that prevented the demon from causing her premature death, like all the women in her line, was the fact that her mother used music and used her fans as a coven to cast this protection spell on her baby so that the demon, yes, the demon was sabotaging the fuck out of her life, but at least the demon was not, did not have the ability to prematurely kill her until this girl had the ability with her coven to destroy this generational curse. This she demon, this motherfucking ancient ass she demon that had been ghosting prematurely all the women in her line. What's the she demon? What's the generational curses we all talking about all the time? Heal generational curses. Heal generational curses. Resolve ancestral trauma and these big ambiguous ideas. What is that shit? Where it come from? Where did it emanate from? When did it start? When did the generational curse start in our family line? Why has nobody but us been charged with the opportunity to destroy the generational curse, to resolve the generational curse, to set ablaze the goddamn generational she demon riding our motherfucking shoulders, sabotaging our goddamn life, sabotaging our goddamn destinies? What that shit look like? This shit I'm talking to you right now about. This shit I'm talking to you right now about. How, just like the other day, that demon, that she demon that was riding that bitch's shoulders wasn't some entity from out in the motherfucking ethos or some motherfucker that emanated from the pits of hell. That's bullshit. That she demon riding her motherfucking shoulders like she a horse and it's a jockey is curses caused in our mother's despair, in our mother's conditioning, in our mother's powerlessness. The only power that women have in their life in this world is power over their children, power over their daughters, power over their sons. And so they use all the weapons because they're conditioned to, they're trained to. They use all the weapons: fear, guilt, manipulation, shame, to control and exert power over the only place on earth they are allowed to express power. That is doing the church's bidding to subdue the power and the potential of their children. That's a word. That's a word. That's the demon, bitch. That's the curse. That's the she demon riding your motherfucker. It's the she demon. Why was it a she demon in this movie? Why they didn't make it a he demon? Because it's the mother's curse. It's the mother's curse. Just because we do not know power, just because we have been robbed of power, robbed of the memory of power, don't mean we don't have power. Does not mean that our ashe is any less powerful than it ever has been. Now our ashe is being used by these motherfuckers in the Bible talking about using their power to put a bit in the mouth of motherfuckers with power to guide their bodies how they see fit. That's what he just said in the Bible. That's what he just said. If I can put a bit in a bitch mouth, I can make her body do whatever I see fit. That's what he just said up in here. They know the power of your tongue. They know the power of your heart. They know the power of your ashe. And he said, look, all we got to do is treat these bitches just like we do horses. Put a bit in that bitch mouth so we can control her tongue. We can control her language. We can control her ashe. We can control her power. And well, if we can control that, we can make her body do whatever we see fit. We can make her body serve us. That's what he said up in here. That's what he said. That's what the church did to you. Is made you spellcasters on the destinies of your daughters. Let me go on. Because it says here that any woman that becomes mother, any woman, period, because everybody is a potential mother, even if they never have children. That portal in your fucking, in your goddamn ministerial fire, that big open space called your uterus is your direct connection to the universal one. It is the gateway. It is the portal. It is the stargate that allows essence to condense itself and come through as material force. So whether you have children or not is not the issue for me. But those who become mother, those who actively become mother, everybody has ashe. Everybody has the power of ashe. Everybody. But those who become mother, are the ones that are said to be able to tap into the verbal power of the goddess herself. That's who. Hannah in the Bible say, look, bitch, you can't tell me nothing right now. I'm God, bitch. I just had a baby. There ain't nothing greater that I can do than to take abstract universe and condense and shape and craft and mold that motherfucker in my own body so that that motherfucker could have its own destiny in the motherfucking real world, bitch. There ain't nothing you can tell me. There ain't nothing you can tell me I can't do, bitch. I'm the one. That's what she said. She said, I'm the one. My mouth is enlarged over my enemies. That's what she said. She said, my mouth is enlarged over my enemies. Anyway, the miasma, the spiritual pollution that could pursue members of a clan for many generations. That's what I just told you. That's what I just described when this girl had the she demon riding her motherfucking back. The generational curse is not some mysterious thing. When you talk about a curse, when you talk about a generational curse, what are you talking about? You're talking about tradition. You're talking about a transfer of beliefs and ideas. Well, that's how I was raised, so that's the only thing I know how to do. I ain't gonna do it no different because that's just how I was raised. That's a generational curse. When you reproduce the ills of those that came before you instead of evolving what they taught you. It's not to say that your ancestors was wrong. It's to say that you have access to information that they did not. Now you must do better. Even if there are aspects of what they did that you use as a foundation, as a foundational guidance for. But this hog time, we just read that in Beyond God the Father today. How we stay hogtied in the absolute execution of tradition the way it was and can't figure out how we can't get out of this motherfucking mess. She just said that today in the reading. And so, well, we do it all the time. That's just how it is. That's just how I always was taught. That's how I did it. That's how my mama raised me, and she did fine. That's how my mama raised me. That's how my daddy raised me. I turned out fine. My mama beat my ass every day of the week. I turned out fine. No, the fuck you didn't. If you turned out fine, bitch, you wouldn't need therapy. You wouldn't need a counselor. You wouldn't need motherfucking psychotropic drugs if you turned out fine. This was some shit I really had to reckon with. It really was, because I love my parents. I love my parents. I feel like my parents gave me a good childhood. I do. I feel like even though we didn't have a lot, I feel like my parents did the absolute best with what they had. Like we were rarely aware of our poverty. Rarely. We had fun. We had parents that like to let us have fun, that like to engage us in fun, that like to, all the things, even as Christians, even as hardcore Christians. I feel like my parents gave me a good life. I didn't feel abused in my childhood. I didn't feel neglected in my childhood. I will say, looking back, that I spent a good portion of my childhood bridled by the fear of getting a spanking. I can't do this because I might get a spanking. I can't do that because I might get a spanking. I can, in hindsight, say that even though I had a good childhood, I feel like I had a good childhood. I had good parents. That shit that they held on about spirit of rise, spoiled a child, and all of that bullshit was a good portion of how I lived. Fear of coloring even mildly outside the lines, because if I colored outside the lines, my parents was going to beat my ass. My daddy was going to make me pick my own switch. And if you pick a switch too small, you don't want me to come out and pick a switch. That type of shit. This going to hurt me more than it hurts you. What the fuck kind of gaslighting ass bullshit is that? You feel me? Like, all of these things I have to go back and examine for myself, because there was a period where I was still holding on and reproducing that bullshit. And I told y'all the story of the very last time I spanked my granddaughter, and she looked at me like I betrayed her. And that day, that moment when she looked at me like an old being, because she trusts me and she loves me, and she looked at me like I had betrayed her. That's how she didn't cry. She looked me straight in the eyes and looked at me like I had betrayed her. And that was the moment that I was like, this ain't no shit that I align with. And so this shit under the guise of, and we treat it like a cultural norm. Child, I done seen videos of y'all or posts of y'all talking about how you got your butt whooped and you turned out fine, or you're seeing videos of people spanking their kids in public and shit, and the shit looked like straight terrorism and shit. And Black people conditioned to accept abuse as leading a child in right way. It's like, they got it easier than I did. My mama used to beat my ass in public like that all the time. Or telling stories about how my mama used to grab a fucking extension cord and this and that and this and that. And my daddy used to grab anything he get it. And then we tee-hee and laugh and caca about that bullshit when we see other people being denied sovereignty. Because that's what you're looking at when you look at a grown-up, big as fuck, towering over a baby, grabbing them by the arm and beating the fuck out of them. You looking at somebody that is denying a child's sovereignty through the acts of terrorism. That's what you're looking at. But we done normalized abuse on Black bodies in particular. We have normalized seeing Black bodies be abused. That's why we don't make a big fuss in general in the society. We don't make a big fuss. Not as big as we should. When we see grown people being abused by people in positions of power, by the police, by the judges, by the state, in any of its different ways. You understand? We do that. We normalize, we are acclimated to seeing Black bodies be abused by people in positions of authority over us. And that begins when we are children. Because most people, women in particular, most women start popping their babies' rear ends as soon as they can walk. As soon as they say their first words or something, they start popping their babies' rear ends or popping their babies' legs, popping their babies' hands or whatever. Well, they need immediate response to what they do because that's how they learn. That's some bullshit. That's some shit that has been passed down to us to normalize the execution of abuse on Black bodies. That's real. And you can say what you want. That's what it is. 400 plus years of physical abuse by figures of authority, white-skinned figures of authority, and then we, through fear and trauma and terror, do the same thing to our children to, quote, keep them in line and keep worse from happening to them by white-skinned people in positions of authority over us. So we become the primary aggressors with the hopes of preventing our children from straying so far out of line that the real aggressors do worse to them. We become the police to our children. We become the imprisoners to our children. Fear, primarily, especially in women of color, is what drives that. So I'm not saying that Black women and women of color are these diabolical, monstrous human beings that just walk around terrorizing their children. That's not what I'm saying at all, and not even close to what I'm saying. I'm saying that fear has driven women to become the agents of patriarchy through their allegiance to the church, for the sole purpose of bridling and binding our babies' power, especially our girl babies. That's what our role has been. If you have in any way a relationship to the church, to the mosque, to the temple, to the synagogue, that is what your role as mother is to guide them in right way so that they will never stray. And how do you do that? You become their police officers. You become their imprisoners. That's what you do. You become their punishers because your punishment pales in comparison to what could happen to them if they get out of line in the world. That's the driving force. Even, which is a discussion I'm gonna have another day, but even in how a lot of Black men talk about how violent their mothers were against them, that we gonna beat you into line so that the crackers don't get a hold of you, or the police don't get a hold of you. So I'm gonna beat you into submission so that you can act right around these white people, so so that you don't lose your damn life. It is fear that is the driving force. And I will also say there are some malignant versions of these relationships where, like I said, women do not have access to power, to real power, to true power. And so the only power that they have in a patriarchal society is that they have over their children. That power they are allowed to have where the state is concerned, where the church is concerned, where the temple, the synagogue, the mosque is concerned, because that relationship, a sacred relationship, can be used to manipulate children into not fighting the power, into not fighting back, into not resisting, into being a complicit member of the state apparatus. This is real. Okay. So anyway, let me move on. This is taking longer than I thought. Damn, we already on here now. Okay. The miasm is a spiritual pollution bringing slow but sure destruction. Miasma could pursue members of a clan for many generations. The tragic family history of Orestes might be traced to a curse laid by the goddess Artemis herself on his ancestor Atreus, who dared to withhold the golden fleece of the sacrificial lamb she had sent, using it to confirm his right to rule. Gods launched curses too. Listen to this. Gods launched curses too, and some of them were spectacular curses, like those with which Yahweh threatened all who disobeyed him, a combination of pestilence, fever, consumption, inflammation, blasting, mildew, extreme burning, hemorrhoid, the scab, the itch, and the botch of Egypt, madness, blindness, slavery, great plagues of long continents, and barrenness of the land, according to Deuteronomy 28. However, the gods' curses seemed not to arouse anywhere as much terror as those of the goddess or a mother. Okay? The terrible vehicle of the famine curse. The terrible vehicle of the famine curse. Those of you who are tuning in on IG, I'll come back. The terrible vehicle of the curse, the feminine curse, was menstrual blood. Still called the curse today. To damn someone has been linked with the Hebrew word dam, which means blood, specifically mother blood, the fluid of the womb, anciently thought to create one's very soul. They're talking about the menstrual blood, and destroy it. Dam was also synonymous with mother, madam or madame, my mother. Elder women past menopause were thought to be the most efficient cursers on the ancient theory that their wise blood was retained in their bodies, giving them numinous power to make their words come true. This is why medieval Europe believed any destructive charm having menstrual blood as one of its ingredients must be irresistible, and why elder women were viewed as the prototypical witches, their words or even their glances heavy with dread. So that's all I'm gonna read from there. But revisit that section called "The Mother's Curse" in the women's the encyclopedia of the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. Oh, here we go with this bullshit. Sometimes I think I'm just gonna completely cancel my IG page because people be doing the most on IG. I can't. Anyway. All right. Yeah, so that's where I'm going to stop on that portion. Yeah. Is the mother's curse, okay? Now, so we talked about that. We talked about the mother's curse. We talked about the tongue in the Bible. The reason I went into this hour-long diatribe about the importance of the tongue, about the power of Ashe coming from the mouths of Black women, women of color, women in general, right? Is because everything we say has an impact that, unless resolved, addressed, will have a lasting impact, will have a forever impact that may even look like a miasma, a generational curse that follows people, that follows the clan down the generational line. All that generational curse is fucked up ideas spoken out of the mouths of people, accepted as holy writ, reproduced in their children over and over and over again. Okay. So I did that. The Aj, the Iami, the Ashe, the mother's curse, the miasma. Okay, cool. The Bible. Okay. The impact of our tongue, of the mother's curse or the mother's blessing, the mother's curse or the mother's blessing, the impact metaphorically that it has on our girl children. Okay. So there was an aspect, I may even save this aspect for maybe a part 2 because it got a lot deeper than I planned for, but I will mention a couple of things. The impact that it has, at least metaphorically, is I'm going to talk to you about, remember the show that I've been telling y'all a lot about, the discovery of witches? The discovery of witches. So in the discovery of witches, the lead character, whose name is Diana, her mother and father were both witches, but they taught her as she was growing up that sometimes the gift skips a line, skips a generation, and that witchcraft, magical powers, skipped her. And so her whole life, she grew up recognizing that witches exist, but believing that she didn't have any powers. She went her whole life believing she didn't have no powers. So when you meet Diana, she is a professor at a school in England, and her whole thing, is like anthropology, I think, or something, historical anthropology or some shit like that, right? She's about science. She's a science woman, right? Even though everybody around her are magical people, practicing witches. All of a sudden, she gets her hands on this ancient book and unlocks something in her, and her magic starts expressing itself without her trying. And so she's freaking out. She's not emboldened by it. She is terrified by it because her position is she is not a witch, that she don't have no power. So what is happening where I will have a thought and some shit happen? Okay. The reason I mentioned this show is because it was one of the most epically demonstrated like personifications of this idea of what people call spell binding. Okay? Spell binding in witches circles, in witches lingo, in mythological ideas, spellbounding typically, okay, so according to this show, what does she say? The only people who were spellbound historically, because spellbinding was considered one of the most egregious things that you could do with magic to another witch. To spellbind another witch, was tantamount to murder. It was heavily frowned upon, heavily punishable. You would be ostracized from the community to bind another witch's powers. She says in here, when the people tell her that it seems that you were spellbound, she was like, no, who would do that? Nobody would do that. Witches, quote, witches who, the only people who are bound are witches who have gone mad. We talked about this a lot: madness, craziness, insanity. Witches who are mad or who hurt people were spellbound. Only witches who were mad or hurt others were spellbound. She finds out through a series of events and magical attacks that one of the attacks actually broke the bind. This is how she discovers that she was spellbound as a toddler. Her father, who had the ability to do the binding, her father cast a spellbinding ritual on this girl that looked like he was covering her in a cocoon of spider webs. When the spellbind was coming down on her, it looked like a sheet of spider webs over each other, over each other, over each other, that bound the girl's magic. The reason that he did it was to protect her, because there was an evil witch, a malevolent witch, coming to test her power to see how powerful she was going to be. And the parents already listen to what I am fucking telling you right now. The parents already knew when the girl was a toddler how powerful a witch she was going to be. And under the auspice of protecting her, because of their fear of her powers being exposed, of her accessing her power, they bound her power. They bound her power. They bound her power to the point that she didn't even remember that she had access to power. Now, is that a metaphor or is that a metaphor? Out of fear and love and protection, they made it so that the girl was defenseless in the world. They made it so that the girl, all the way up into her adult years, could not access her own power. You heard? If that ain't a metaphor, I don't know what is for what we do. Under the auspice of fear of the world, protection from the aggressions of the world, protection from the gates of hell, or whatever it is we are afraid of that we superimpose on our children because we see something in them when they're toddlers, or we see something in them when they're 6, or we see something in them when they're 8, and so we clamp down. We punish stronger. We put them on restriction. We put them on restriction as punishment for what we see they are becoming that is going to be problematic in the quote normal world. We squash rebellion. What did Mary Daly say today in the reading in Beyond God the Father? We condemn deviance. We condemn deviance. We suffocate their power. To the point that they do not even remember they are powerful, that they have power, that magic belongs to them. This is called spellbinding, or to be spellbound. Okay. Her father cast that spell on her while her mother sat back and watched. Sound like an analogy? Sound like a metaphor? Sound like a metaphor for women in relationships with malignant men that they allow to spank their children, they allow to punish their children, they allow to aggress against their babies because they too are fearful of the man? Sound like a metaphor? While this male witch's intentions might have been good, the impact was that he suffocated and damn near disappeared his only child's access to source, access to power, access to her true nature, prolonging her ability to become herself, to become her fully embodied, emboldened, empowered, sovereign self. Her daddy did that out of fear and love. That's what the church does to our parents, that then in turn take that mythology and superimpose it on us under the guise of protecting us and shielding us and protecting our souls from the gates of hell and shit. That happened. If you are interested in watching that episode was season 1, episode 6, where she finds out that she had been bound. And she is devastated because she knows that the only time that happens, because it's such an egregious violation for a witch to bind another witch. She was like, who could have done this? And the guy tells her, your parents did it. She's like, my parents didn't do that. My parents loved me. My parents didn't do that. He's like, baby, yes, they did. They did it to protect you because these bad witches was out here with that bullshit. You understand? But that's why they did it. They needed to shield you. They needed to make you invisible. They needed to make your power. They needed to make you invisible to those that would do you harm. God damn it. Oh my God. They did it to make you invisible. Holy fucking goddamn, man. Goddamn. This goes back to the discussion of mothers casting spells on their daughters out of fear, out of concern, out of seeing some rebellious thing in their babies, out of protecting their girls' bodies from outward aggressors. You feel me? The attempts that they use to disempower their girl children in particular is to do just what this daddy did, is to make their girls invisible as a way to protect them from the eyes and the aggressions of the outside world. That's what he did. He made his baby invisible. That's what he did. That's what we do. That's what we do when we imprison our daughters. When we have girls and boys, and the girls obviously see that there is a treatment that they don't receive that the brothers do. When we condemn our babies by telling them we have to be more ladylike. Why you a tomboy? Why you acting like a boy and shit when all you're doing is playing? That's all we doing is playing like we see our friends playing. And now we have been denied access to bliss and ecstasy in play because now we acting like a boy because we like to climb trees too. Because trees talk to us girl children just the same way trees talk to them boy children or whatever. You feel me? And so we like to play in the mud just like boy children do. But now we being called a tomboy. Boys get these freedoms, are allowed this freedom to move about because, oh, that's just what boys do. That's just how boys be. You just have to let them work it out while we become encaged, disappeared in real time, under the auspice of our protection and protecting us from the outside world. That's what we do. So that is one. That's one thing. Feel me? Then, in Agatha All Along, there were two. Well, there's several, because Agatha All Along, essentially, the whole thing is about these witches whose powers have been bound for one reason or another, in one way or another. All the witches in this coven have been bound. The first witch that we meet is Agatha, who has been bound. There's a memory bind on her, an illusion bind and a memory bind on her, where she thinks she is a police investigator investigating the murder of some woman. And she is bound. So she don't know that this is not her reality. She doesn't even remember that this is not her reality. That's her binding. She meets this child that rescues her from the spell that has her bound. And this boy child cannot tell her his name because there's a sigil placed on his mouth. So every time he says, my name is, the sigil will come across his mouth so that nobody can know his true name. So the whole first 2 or 3 episodes, they calling this boy the teen, because every time somebody asks him his name, he says, my name is, the fucking sigil is spelled out on his mouth. So he cannot reveal his identity. He don't know the sigil is there. And people are looking at him crazy whenever he attempts to say what his name is. And then finally somebody's like, boy, you got a sigil on you. He's like, well, who put it there? What's it for? Whatever. So he's bound from being able to reveal to other people who he is, what his identity is. And then every last woman. So there's a Black woman who is a master of the herbal sciences, and she was a licensed midwife who was bound by some doctor witch, some male doctor witch, who bound her power. So all of these women are on the witch's road. They're doing this journey on the witch's road to attempt to regain access to their own personal power. They have all in some way or another been bound. That's what the whole show is about. It's about how these women are trying to loose the bind that's on them. And each one of these women they all have to go together as a coven to help each individual woman traverse whatever trauma in her life has been unaddressed that has facilitated and strengthened the bind. And so each challenge is about a singular witch's fucking unresolved trauma that she needs the group to help her resolve. She need to click. She need the crew. Because one woman tried to opt out. She's like, I'm the fuck out of here. And the house wouldn't let her leave. Like, bitch, no, this is your task too. Y'all are coven. Y'all are singular. Y'all are one. Y'all are one. You need the crew to loose this bind on you, to regain access to your power, to slay the fucking demons imposed on you by conditioning, by ideological bullshit. You need your coven. You need your clique for each one of you to traverse these traumas that you cannot gain your power until you loose this trauma, until you loose this shit. That's Agatha all along. There's story after story after story. Because you see this list. I was just sitting there taking notes on some other shit, and I was like, oh shit, right? Agatha all along is an example of the mother's curse. It's the Scarlet Witch that cast the bind on Agatha. Who is the Scarlet Witch? It is Iami Rojo, the red witch, the red Ajay that I talked to y'all about. The most powerful of all the Ajay is the red Ajay. Ajay Dudu is the black Ajay, right? And then Ajay, what's her name? Ajay Efun is the white witch, is the white Ajay. It's in every movie, everywhere you look, everywhere you see, you can't unsee it. The oldest, most divine witches, the Ajay, the black mothers, the white witch, the red witch, the black witch, the Iami Ajay, right? And so it's the Scarlet Witch, it's the red witch that cast this bind on Agatha all along, or Agatha all along. But then I was like, well, damn, that's deep. This whole idea of the binding. I was like, okay, well, what about the mother aspect of it? Did y'all see? I got grandkids, so of course I still watch cartoons. Did y'all see the Disney movie Red Panda, about the little Asian girl? Anybody see the movie Red Panda? Anybody? Okay. So the Red Panda is a classic example of how the traditions imposed on women suffocate their power and eventually become a generational curse. This movie in particular, when the girl turns into Ajay, is spelled A-J-E, Ajay, A-J-E. Iami is spelled I-Y-A-M-I-E. I-Y-A-M-I-M-I-M-I. I-Y-A-M-I. Ajay is A-J-E. Okay? So in the Red Panda, when the little girl is freaking out because she done turned into this big, red, squishy, fluffy red panda, and she's talking through the door with her mom, and her mom thinks her menstrual cycle has started. There's something there. Her mother thinks her menstrual cycle has started. You feel me? And it wasn't until she went to go take her baby some tampons to school that she realized that her baby, because her baby was under all this maternal stress, pressure to be good. What did we talk about today in Beyond God the Father? These superimposed identifications of women that make us enemies to one another, identifications as good and identifications as bad. And so we war with each other through these identifications that have been imposed on us by patriarchal social systems. We go to war with one another when one is bad and one is good. And these identifications that we take into ourselves, these labels that we take into ourselves on whether we good or whether we bad, based on what men say good and bad is, causes us to go to war with one another. You feel me? So the pressure of being the perfect child, the pressure of being good, her mother is monstrous. Her mother humiliates her in public. Her mother is always on. Her mother gives her no leeway. Even though she's a good girl, she still can't do shit. Her mother condemns and talks about her wild, unruly friends. Her mother is monstrous, right? And so when she turns into the red panda, her mother, not expecting that it was going to happen so soon, has to tell her the story of Sun Yi, who is their ancestor, who prayed to the goddess because she loved her Sun Yi loved red pandas. And she loved red pandas so much that she decided that she was going they had a great ancestor. The great ancestor was obsessed with red pandas. So she prayed to the goddess Sun Yi to turn her into a red panda so that she could defend her community. It was during wartime and the men were away fighting a war. And so all these women and their children were left unprotected. And so she says to Sun Yi, give me the power to harness my emotions so that I can turn into the red panda to defend me, my daughters, and the women in the community where there ain't no men because they all at war or some shit. But that was specifically what she said. Allow me to harness my emotions to defend our people. That's what she said. She said, and then the grandmother reiterated that it is strong emotions that release the red panda. The red panda was the gift to their line. The red panda wasn't seen as a curse. The red panda was what? A protective gift to the women in the line so that they, if needed, could channel this energy to defend the group. What that sound like if that don't sound like what I was talking to y'all about this morning in the first live that I did? When I'm talking about how people are turned off by a particular face of the goddess, the warrior face of the goddess, the angry face of the goddess, goddess the destroyer, goddess the defender, goddess the warrior, goddess the motherfucker who came to slay some bitches, goddess the fates, goddess the furies. We don't like that face of the goddess. We don't like that version of the goddess. We don't like women to be talking about their emotions. We don't like women to express rage. We don't like women to channel fear so that they can viciously defend they people now. We don't like that version of the goddess. We like the nice goddess. We like the goddess who look like Big Mama. We like the goddess who, is sweet and beautiful and sometimes will let us have sex with her and shit. That's what we like. But when goddess, savior of the world, when goddess, the destroyer is always the savior of the world. There ain't a mythology yet I ain't seen where the destroyer goddess is not at the same time through the acts of destruction, saving the world. Saving the world. You feel me? And so here, the red panda, which is a gift to the female line at the time of puberty. At the time that the girls, what did Barbara Moore say up in here about the mother's curse? She said that part and parcel to the efficiency of the mother's curse was what? Was said to embolden and strengthen the mother's curse was what? Was menstrual blood. You feel me? So this girl turns into the red panda, and a red panda in this movie may very well be a metaphor for the power of puberty for young girls, the power of the coming of their blood that foretells their ability to channel the power of manifestation through the act of giving birth. It may very well be that. But the same question is the context is the same. Is that what was once viewed as a gift by society is now a woman's curse. To be suppressed, to be encased. Because what did all the women in her line have to do? Because they all had the red panda. When all the aunties came over and the grandmama came over, right? And the mama was all talking. They all pulled out their little necklace. They all had a little necklace, a little amulet, where their red panda was imprisoned. Their red panda was imprisoned in a little amulet that they kept around their neck, so that the red panda wouldn't run amok in the modern world. Because she says it. Her mama tells her what was a blessing for the women in our line. Well, now it becomes, what did she say? It becomes an inconvenience. That's what she said. And then the little girl said, you cursed us, talking to the statue of the goddess Sun Yi. You cursed us, this is a curse, this is a curse. Her mother said, what was a blessing in a period where women had to actively defend themselves, now when in the new world and in a new society, what was a blessing now is an inconvenience, because we women are so emotionally easily triggered that our red panda can just come out anytime. So we have to, under the light of the blood moon, imprison the rebellious side of ourselves. Yep. Imprison the warrior side of ourselves. Imprison the defender side of ourselves. Because that's what what was the panda for? To harness emotions, to be able to protect her daughters. That's what the woman did it for. She prayed to the goddess, turn me into a red panda so I can violently protect my daughters against aggressors. That's what she said. So the red panda was a warrior, was a guardian, was a protectress. And now she a nuisance because our emotions are not really good for modern society. They're not really good to display in modern society. So what was a blessing now becomes a nuisance, a curse, inconvenient. Not that the emotions have gone anywhere, not that you don't experience the emotions. It's your response to the emotions that are a nuisance. It's your expression of the emotions that are now problematic in civil society, in modern society. So now they just lay inside you. They just reside inside you. You feel me? You feel me? So that was that. And she too talked about the whole good girl, bad girl thing. Her mother told her that the red panda curse could be cured. The red panda curse could be cured. This is her mother telling her this. This is her mother telling her, keep your emotions in check. She passed all the emotional trigger tests. Even the cute, she couldn't even be moved by cute kitties because the panda would come out. Even the cute kitty test she passed. She was able to suppress every emotional response. That's what her mama said. We gave her all the emotional trigger tests and she suppressed them all. She passed all the tests. I was like, oh my God. The girl could not, because it wasn't just bad emotions. It was just strong emotions. So she couldn't express cuteness for the kitties. She couldn't express rage for the boy that was bullying her in school. She couldn't express frustration about what was happening in the classroom. She couldn't express embarrassment when her mother humiliated her in front of all the kids in the store. Her emotions were unacceptable to display in public. Do you understand? Now, why is that important? I said I wasn't going to go into this, but this shit is everywhere. It's everywhere. Fear as a motivating force for imprisoning your girl children. What better movie is that displayed in than the movie Frozen? Poor Elsa. As a child, she was a baby, Elsa. And because she had this power, and because she accidentally hurt her sister with the power, the trolls told her parents, she can't be doing that shit. She can't be casting spells and using her power and shit, because fear of her power, nobody can see her power. Nobody can know that she has power. That's what the trolls told her daddy. Can't nobody know this girl got power. Can't nobody see this girl got power. You got to lock her away. You got to lock her away because fear is going to be her undoing. They didn't say where the fear was going to come from. The fear is going to be her undoing. So the king and the queen locked up the whole castle, had them wipe her sister. What was her sister name? Elsa, and I forget the other girl name, the little sister. But had the trolls wipe her memory of magic. Do y'all hear what the fuck I'm telling y'all? The trolls wiped Anna, thank you, wiped the girl's memory clean of magic, and then separated the two of them, severed their relationship under the auspice of keeping Anna safe from this deep, dark magic that Elsa had. What was the quote that her father, the little song her father taught her to sing when she was feeling overwhelmed by her power? Conceal it. Don't feel it. Don't let it show. Conceal it. Don't feel it. Don't let it show, child. Control it. Control it. Control it. Here's some gloves to cover your hands so you don't cast spells on anything. Keep yourself locked away in your room. From childhood to adulthood, she was locked in the same room, while her sister roamed the halls alone, trying to understand why the sister she loved more than anything on earth was ignoring her, didn't love her anymore. When she is finally exposed at her coronation and she runs off, she like, they didn't see me now. The cat's out of the bag. I'm exposed. So I might as well to keep because in her mind, she is still saying, I'm the problem. And in order to keep other people safe, I have to leave. That's what she's saying. I'm the problem because I have power. And in order to keep people safe from me, I have to live in isolation. What did I tell you the other day about the show Charmed with the little he demon riding the shoulder of the girl who was doing all this good shit? All of a sudden, he in her ear, everybody is harmed around you. Nobody is safe around you, girl. Jump off this building. Jump off this building because ain't nobody help by you. You ain't did no good in the world, girl. You feel me? Jump off this building. Here, Elsa, in her mind, through years of conditioning by her loving parents, fearful that something bad will happen to her if the greater community finds out this girl got power. And so she's like, look, I'm exposed. You feel me? So let me go on out here into these mountains and live by myself. Like the hermit witch of every story in history. The hermit witch living by herself in isolation so that nobody come and get her or whatever. You feel me? And baby, she gets on that mountain, starts stripping off all them restrictive clothes, toss her little hair out the braid. You feel me? Singing the song, let it go, right? She say, I could sing y'all the whole song because it's my jam. That's my movie. You feel me? I weep actual tears every time I see it because I be feeling Elsa. I feel Elsa. You feel me? She says, thank you guys for the donations, Claudia Ankara, and I think it was Java Watson. Thank you so much for the donations, for the super thanks and the super chats. She says, I have to keep my powers hidden. There was a point where she tells her dad, oh my God, Dad, they're getting stronger. They're getting stronger. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. They're getting stronger. Then when she got to open up the gates, when she says that, tell the guards to open up the gates, right? She's singing this song. So Anna is all hyped. She's like, we opening the gates, bitch. We opening the windows. We pulling the plates out. We got a chocolate fountain. This is awesome. Meanwhile, Elsa is stressing. She's like, all these people gonna be up in here. Ain't nobody been up in here since I was a little girl. You feel me? I'm gonna be exposed. And she says, her song is, don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. That's it. That's her song. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl that you always have to be. Something, conceal, don't let it show. And no one else will know. And then she goes on after she found out. Well, now they know. Let it go, let it go. They know now, shit, it's the cat's out the bag. Come here. Speaking of cats, come here, girl. Come on. Come on. You trying to get up here. Right? And she go up there, she do her thing. The thing that is so moving about that scene is when her powers are unleashed, when she is exposed, when she is unbound, when she's walking up that mountain in the fucking snow and starts stripping off all her clothes to reveal the beautiful ice-made dress underneath with a little cleavage up, and she pull her hair out and it's all wispy in the wind and shit. This is a metaphor for her unbinding. This is a metaphor for her unbinding, for her genius being unleashed and unbound. This is a metaphor for all of these other things that I'm telling you. The unbinding of one's power, the genius unleashed in female power. In a minute, child, it only took a minute. In a minute, she becomes architect. Honey, waving her arms, just like I was telling y'all about the conductor in his motherfucking magic wand and shit earlier. She waving her hands and she constructs this beautiful edifice, this beautiful architectural edifice of her genius, this beautiful architectural example of what her potential has been, though locked the fuck up behind a closed door. She's been locked behind a closed door. Her power has been bound. And she gets up there. She's like, I didn't even know I could do this shit. Look at me setting this shit off effortlessly. Look at me setting this shit off. Okay. Look at that. I done created an abominable snowman, gave that motherfucker life. Yes, I did. I done built a castle in the blink of an eye like an architectural genius. Did that. Genius unleashed. Power unbridled. And how that which we keep, and then even in the end, she recognizes that the fear that the trolls were talking about was not others' fear of her. It was her internalized fear that was holding her hostage, that was holding her magic hostage, that made it impossible for her to will, even though she built this edifice, she still had this uncontrollable fear of doing harm to others that still did not allow her to fully access her power. It was her fear. It wasn't fear of others. Her family thought it was the fear of others that would be dangerous to her, like our mamas fear others, so they encage us, like our mamas imprison us, like our mamas have stricter rules for us than they do their boy children, like they mamas recall some terrible thing that happened to them, and that ain't gonna happen to my babies, so let me keep them close, let me imprison them, let me beat the power down so that they are not inclined to go out in the world and demonstrate power, present power. That's what happened to Elsa. Her parents covered her, smothered her. They bound her. They bound her out of fear and love. That's what they did. She internalized the fear, and her love was guided by protecting others from her. So she lived in isolation, behind closed doors, her power trapped in her own imagination through ideas imposed on her as a baby. You feel me? That was deep shit. People need to be revisiting that shit. A lot of these recent Disney movies, all written by women, are talking about the same thing. The movie Brave, about the little redhead Scottish chick, right? And this tumultuous relationship with her mother. Her mother was the victim of tradition, whose power had been stifled. And the only significance that she had was in proximity to her king husband, and how she reared her children to do the same thing she did, her girl child in particular. And her girl child was like, I want to be in the world. When the girl child, all these suitors came to compete through the contest of archery for the girl's hand, she was like, fuck that. I'm going to compete for my own hand. And she beat all the males. She beat all the suitors. She was the master archer. She was like, okay, they can fight for my hand, but I'm going to be a contestant too. I'm going to be a contestant too. And she beat all the dudes. Now, I won my own hand. So can I be free? But instead, her mother was humiliated by her expression of freedom, by her desire for sovereignty, because she had never experienced sovereignty. Her mama had never experienced sovereignty. This movie is a deep metaphor, Because the only time her mother had ever experienced freedom in her life was when she was transformed into a wild animal. When her mother was transformed through a spell into a bear, living in the wild and experiencing life for the first time as a wild person, as a wild woman, eating fish right out the river, eating berries right off the tree, frolicking in the wilderness with a baby and shit. This is the first time her mother had ever experienced anything that remotely looked like sovereignty, that was outside the confines of tradition. You understand? And it was only then her mother having this experience of actually living unbound, that when she was transformed, that she could relate to her daughter better. There was a tear in the tapestry right between the mother and the daughter, because the mother's adherence to tradition, her mother's dogmatic adherence to tradition, was causing her to imprison and confine her daughter. And so the mother was a master weaver. And the girl was so angry, she slashed the tapestry her mother was working on. That was her and her mother, and she slashed the tapestry right in between her and her mother. And the witch that cast the spell to turn the mother into a bear was like, you have to mend the web. You have to mend the tapestry. You have to mend talking to the girl. It's your responsibility to mend this relationship with you and your mother. What is this a metaphor for? How we wild women, we witches of the day, those of us who are conscious right now, doing this work with the goddess right now, are charged with healing the women in our line all the way back and all the way forward. That's our task to do. Yes, the little girl was annoyed because her mama was imprisoning her and shit. But the witch told her, like, girl, you have to mend the tapestry. Your mama don't know how to do it. She is a victim of tradition. You have to mend the tapestry, baby. You have to demonstrate to her what it is to live unbound. You have to demonstrate to her what it is to live unbound. This is the way you heal your mother. And this is the way that you heal the relationship between you and your mother. That shit is deep. The fact that the little girl is an archer is not an accident. It's not an accident. Tangled, the same way. The maleficent mother. You understand? That literally imprisons her daughter up in a tower to keep her away from men. That's all she talks about, is to keep her away from the wiles of the world, and how she couldn't survive in the world by herself because everything terrible happens out in the world. Men are terrible. The wilderness is terrible. The woods are terrible. The animals are terrible. Child, you are safe right up in here, right up in this tower with a mother who loves you, with a mother who loves you, with a mother who loves you. You understand? Tangled is real deep, actually. Tangled is real deep. It's deeper than that. But I won't even go into that. But Tangled is real deep. Tangled is really deep. The whole idea of women, especially older women, attempting to at the same time, simultaneously, exploit the power of younger women, while at the same time narcissistically condemning and dimming these young women's light. Simultaneously. Using stereotypical narcissistic tactics to shame, to guilt, to reduce, to deny the power inherent in girl children, while at the same time being fed, emboldened, and empowered by proximity to them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tangled is a motherfucker. You feel me? Tangled is deep in terms of the complexities between mother and daughter. I'm trying to read all of y'all's comments, but I'm trying to also keep myself intact because it's really easy for me to get distracted. Moana. Moana is a great metaphor for how ideas like tradition, fear, and love, toxic love though, love becomes the lock and key to the fulfillment of girls' destinies. That movie, probably more than anyone I've mentioned, That one, probably more than any one I have mentioned, is a classic metaphor for how traditional responsibilities, love as a weapon, and fear, how fear impacts love, that causes parents, people who love us, who have good intentions based on the ideas they still hold in their head. Because I'm not saying anybody does this shit malignantly or malefic, with malefic intentions. Let me say it like that. I think that our conditioning does enough that it confuses us when our parents, the people that we trust most on earth, who we know love us, exhibit behaviors that stifle us, that suffocate us, that imprison us, that shame us, that guilt us, that make us retreat into ourselves. That's some complicated shit, because you know your parents love you. You know your parents mean well, but their actions are not indicative. So we always begin to equate love with pain, love with suffering, love with living without, love with denial, right? It's a real complicated thing. And malicious intent. Thank you. And so the father, in Moana, the reason he won't let her go and explore just outside the reef is because he had this terrifying experience when he was a teenager where his best friend died because they went beyond the reef and didn't know how to sail. And they went beyond the reef and his friend died. And so from that point on, as the king of the village, he forbade anybody from going outside the reef. His daughter was drawn to the water. His daughter, as an infant, was called by the water, was chosen by the water. What's the water in the movie? Anybody remember? The water was her ancestors. The water that chose her when she was an infant was a task given to her by her ancestors. Her grandmother, who has been reduced in her power to the crazy lady. Oh, your crazy grandma. Your crazy grandma who just dances by the sea. You understand? Her grandmother was the only one on the island that was with it, that could see clearly. She, in her madness, right? Madness used to strip away power and significance of power. Her grandmother was like, look, baby, I saw when the water chose you. This is your destiny. Now take this stone and get your ass on the boat and let the water lead you to your destiny. Right? And there's so much that happens in Moana. The other thing I want to talk about briefly about Moana that is so deep because it ties back to this discussion about the faces of the goddess. Te Kā and Te Fiti, the whole movie had been talked about as if they were two entities, right? That when what's his name? What's his name? Well, it's okay. Okay, you're welcome. Maui, thank you. When Maui stole the heart from Te Fiti, right? The heart of Te Fiti, when he stole the heart, the way they made it out was that it opened up the world to monsters. And the most vicious monster of all was Te Kā, right? The lava monster, right? And then when you see at the end that Te Fiti and Te Kā were the same. They were one and the same. They were the singular she in two personifications, in her two faces, like I talked about the Iami, like I talked about the Iami turned Iami Age. The mothers turned punishers. The mothers turned warriors. Like I talked about Sekhmet, who is the guardian of childbirth and menstruation, but she is also the god of war. Like I talked about Oya, who is the mother of 9, who was taking in everybody kids, abandoned kids, thrown away kids. She was mama in everybody children, wanting everybody to do good in the marketplace, but cross her wrong and she is ready to go to war. She is the master strategist for whom has not been beaten in battle. They did not, through the whole movie, they did not draw this connection that Te Kā and Te Fiti were the same. that it is this aggression by Maui to steal the source of her power, child, her heart. What did I start out by saying? That even in the Bible, even in Chinese medicine, even in Taoist theory, even in Hindu tradition, even according to the chakras, the heart governs the tongue. The heart controls the tongue. The heart controls the tongue. The heart is where the power is. The tongue is the disseminator of that power. It is the director of that power. And Maui goes to Mother Earth, because that's who Te Fiti is, Mother Earth, and steals her heart, steals the source of her fucking power. That's what he did. They made him out as a cute little, anti-hero. He is the malevolent. He's like the jester spirit. He's like the personification of the jester and other mythologies, right? They make him like he's benign, but if you look at the way Maui behaved through the whole movie, he was so fucking malignant. He was so malignant. But we laugh it off. He tries to drown Moana 3 times. He tries to lock her in the cave of his imprisonment so that he can steal her boat to go off and do what he need to do. She escapes, and then he tries to drown her. Then he pees on her. He betrays her when she's trying to fight the coconut people. He is monstrous through the whole movie. We just let it slide. Oh, it's Maui. Oh, it's okay. You're okay. You're welcome. He is monstrous. But he is somehow given a pass at the end for this monstrous aggression against the mother. He literally, to appease humans, he betrays the mother. He goes out into the depths to his mother and steals the source of her power. And without the source of her heart's power, she becomes the angry, aggressive, destructive lava demon, destroying everything she touches. And all the while, she's mad because she's like, nigga, I just want my shit back. Can I just have my power back? Can I just have my shit back? If you ain't coming here to give me my shit back, I'm destroying everything. I'm destroying everything. Okay? And so when Moana realizes, because she's like attempting to maneuver around Te Kā, she's like, okay, I got to get past her to get to Te Fiti. And then there's this moment where she sees this gaping wound in Te Kā's chest where her heart should be. She sees the wound in Te Kā's chest. You understand? And what does she tell the water, who has been her ally the whole time? Who is the water again? Her motherfucking her ancestors. The water is her ancestors. She talks to the water and she tells the water what? Let her come to me. She's walking, girl, look. She walking across dry earth like motherfucking Moses. The water parts its way for her to walk to her mother. For her to greet her mother. Do you understand me? She tells the water, she tells her ancestors, I got this. Let her part the way. Let her come to me. As she comes, and she comes. The song brings me to tears every time. I got goosebumps just saying the song. The song gives me goosebumps every time I see the movie. There's not a single time I've watched Moana, and it's been about 50, that I have not cried at the scene. What does she say? She says, I know who you are. I know your name. Though they have harmed you, this can never define you. Though they have harmed you, this cannot define you. What did she say? I can't even remember. I know your name. They have harmed you, but this does not define you. And then she walks up to her and she greets Te Kā and replaces her heart, heals her gaping wound created by her son. That's what she did. This little girl fulfilling her destiny against her parents' wishes, against her parents' binding, against her parents' spell casting on her destiny. That's what she did. That's what this little girl did. She's like, I don't have to know how to sell. My ancestors got me. I don't know how to do this shit. My ancestors got. I just have to have the courage and the belief that this is the destiny my ancestors gave me. My big mama told me, look, I saw it when it happened when you were an infant and they gifted you with the heart. They say you, little baby, are going to be the one that saved your village, that saved your people, that saved the whole world, little girl. You don't have to see and know how it's going to happen. You just have to believe that it's going to happen and that we got your motherfucking back. Your mother needs to be healed, and we have charged you with this destiny. So you're going to have to defy your people now. You're going to have to defy your parents. You're going to have to defy everyone. You're going to have to defy Maui, who tells you you're just a silly little girl who believe a myth about the water talking to her. You're going to have to reject the fucked up opinions of gods themselves in order to fulfill this destiny. That's what the water told her. We got you. So naysaying gods who be trying to sabotage your shit by trying to drown you and lock you in a cave and all of that shit. We reject it and we got you. But the story is about how tradition and fear and love as a toxic spell that we cast on our children. We mothers are guilty of it more than anybody because we live in fear. We live surrounded by things that we have a right to be fearful of. And in that fear and in that malignant attempt to protect our children, we become the spellcasters that bind their powers. That's what we do, especially girl children. That's what we do. We become spellcasters that bind our children, that make their powers invisible to society. In making their powers invisible, we make them invisible. We make them smaller. We make them quieter. We make them less rebellious. We make them less deviant. We make them less defiant. The last thing I will say, that I'm taking my ass to bed because I've been on here for 2 hours. The last thing I would say is I'm probably going to do a part 2 to this because I didn't even get to half of what I wanted to. I wanted to talk specifically about, I wanted to talk to you specifically about mother-daughter relationships as talked about by Bell Hooks in Communion, the Female Search for Love. The chapter on the complicated relationships between mothers and their daughters in that book is so deep. Yes, Claudia Ankra, it could be a whole series. The section in Communion, the Female Search for Love, about the complicated relationships, particularly of how patriarchy shows up in the relationships between women and their girl children, is really fire. How she talks about that. Also, I wanted to discuss Pure Lust, because Mary Daly has a lot to say about the impact of patriarchy on mother-daughter relationships. And I also wanted to revisit, as a part of the discussion about the power of the tongue in a clinical setting, not only the power of the tongue, but the tongue, the power of thought, the power of imagery. Thank you, D. Kaysen DC. I think that's the way you say it. D. Kaysen DC. Thank you so much for the contribution. I love the little hippo. That's cute. I wanted to talk about this, the study called The Search for Oneness. Several people have talked about it. If you can find this book, I'll be amazed. I paid because the book is way out of print. I think I paid like $289 for this book or something like that, because it's so hard to find. But this is based on a study about, quote, psychologically remending the severed ties between human beings and their mothers, like mending the mother wound using psychotherapy. And that's where we come as the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence to the end of our prayer, our conspiracy, that, as it said, mommy and I are one, right? The remending of severed mother bonds. So I would like to enter this into the discussion too. And so it was pure lust, bell hooks. Yeah, so I might do a part 2 next week on this discussion about women of color. Women of color, stop casting spells on your daughters, right? So hopefully this was helpful and insightful in some way, and maybe it can open up a much more deep discussion. Oh, the one thing I was going to say is what I would like to reimagine in new age parenting. New age parenting is for women to be taught to approach and see their family, whether they have a partner, a husband, a spouse, a lesbian partner, whatever, whether they have a partner or not, but seeing their children and their immediate family as their first cousin, as their first coven. The first coven is the family, and then the extended coven, as your spiritual family or whatever. I was thinking about that today. I was like, damn, that would be a dope way to approach, because people are talking about gentle parenting, and that's nice. But how do we incorporate like spirituality and the reclamation of power and teaching power to children, teaching their right to power, their right to sovereignty, redefining what power is in the form of the family being seen as the first coven. Feel me? So that's something that I'm working with right now. But anyway, I'm going to end there. Hopefully that was helpful. And I would encourage you to go into the description, where I typed out a long description with a lot of links of this live, and just check out some of those links. There's a couple of articles posted in there. There's a couple of movies posted in there. There's a list of movies, particularly about Black women and their daughters. It's like a list of 5. So check out those links, and let's have another discussion next week for this topic. But I really wanted to take a different angle. A lot of the people I've been seeing and hearing talk about the mother wound and the impact of the mother wound, it's all valid, but every single thing that I have been seeing has been coming from a strictly psychotherapeutic, psychoanalytical place, which to me is very limiting. It's very, very limiting when psychology is the only basis for understanding what ails the human psyche in this period. It does a huge disservice and contributes a lot of frustration to the human spirit, because talk therapy is simply not enough to address what is happening to the human being these days. It's a strategy that needs to be implemented within a grand strategy that is to heal the human, that is to create a whole human. What did Mary Daly say today and Beyond God the Father? To welcome a whole new being. And psychotherapy alone is not going to cut it. Psychotherapy alone is not going to address the mother wound, the impact that our damaged relationships with our mothers have on us, where they come from, what the history of these mother wounds are, because they started somewhere. They have an origin. That's why I wanted to talk to y'all about, read to y'all today from the Great Cosmic Mother, because Barbara Moore has a lot to say about the strained relationships between mothers and their children, deliberately imposed on those family structures by the philosophy of Catholicism in particular, to make weapons out of women to indoctrinate their children. There ain't no shit that just emerged out of nowhere. It is a deliberate strategy of patriarchy is to turn mothers into agents of the war god. That's what they've done, is to turn mothers into the agents of war gods, using their children or using women to indoctrinate their children. You understand? So that's why because I saw a lot. I watched a lot of videos on the mother wound. They were all very good. They were all very informative. They were all psychologically sound and still so deficient in helping human beings understand what is happening to them. And even if I have a strained relationship with my mother or a toxic relationship with my mother, how can I have a decent relationship with the mother and pray to the mother and allow the mother to fill the gap left by my relationship with my birth mother, and still pray for my actual mama, to restore my familial line, the women in my line, without having to expose myself to the toxic nature of my relationship with my mother. Because I believe that can happen. And I counsel women that way. I counsel men that way. I'm not going to tell anybody to put themselves in a relationship or in a situation where they are being aggressed against by a toxic parent, by an unconscious parent. I would never do that. I still encourage people to pray to the Great Mother, to pray to Earth, to the Great Mother, to your ancestors, on behalf of your broken mother, on behalf of your injured mother, on behalf of your malignant mother. Does not mean you got to go eat dinner with your mama. Doesn't mean that you got to go and do anything for her. Do you understand? So that's some things that I feel like we're missing from these discussions. Purely psychological, analytical understandings of what causes the mother wound just are not going to fucking cut it. And even if we're looking at the psychological basis behind the statement that I'm saying, when we look at this book, The Search for Oneness, and they're saying, these are 3 research psychologists from the 1970s saying, treating people in a psychiatric hospital, saying, we theorize that everything wrong with all these motherfuckers, whether they're schizophrenic, drug addicts, behavioral addicts, can't lose weight, whatever their issue is, we have this theory, we have this hypothesis that at the root of every mental illness is premature severing from the child from the mother. And if we could psychologically mend this premature severing, could we resolve all of the psychological issues that we are treating in this hospital right now? They did that. And the results that they got weren't only radical, they were permanent. So that's why I say we have to have a multifaceted approach to the future, to global healing, to the exorcism of the old ways, the old ideas, the old traditions that keep us held hostage to bullshit. We have to have a multifaceted approach to this. You feel me? And so that's the challenge that we are confronted with, is what the temple of evolutionary emergence is primed to do, what we have the capacity and the ability to do as a functioning 501c3 when we get the ball rolling, when we have people that can constantly be seeking out grants for the projects that we want to be involved in and the programs that we want to unleash, to, have all of these things. I want to build a school. I keep telling y'all that. That's like urgent to me. I have grandchildren. I want to build a school where my grandchildren can attend. It's urgent that we build a school, right? And what's the school gonna be like? Like, if you had me tell it, I would have it up here on the mountain like a Hogwarts kind of thing, where these kids, these indigenous kids and Mexican kids and black kids and Asian kids and even little white kids can come and learn the ways of the mother from the time they in pre-K until they graduate high school. And if they want to go to college, they can go to college too, right here at whatever we gonna call it. Children of the Fates whole learning institution or some shit. You feel me? Whole learning institute, having apprenticeship programs for people who don't want to go to high school and just want to learn a trade. We can do that too. Kids who just want to learn how to be artists, Give them what you need, but still let you focus on that. You feel me? Like, yes, yes. Old people who want to go back to school, we got a place for y'all too. Y'all can come back to school too. We got a Hogwarts for old people too. You understand? I'm telling y'all, my vision is massive. Just because it's massive does not mean it's inexecutable. It's absolutely executable. It's absolutely executable. And so that's what I want us to do. You know, I want us to be the facilitating process that allows the world to welcome whole humans, to welcome new beings of the new earth. That's what I want. That's what I see for us. That's what I see for us. So, and then teach women how to lead the coven, which is their own home. What did Barbara Walker say in the Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets? That the woman is the hearth in every home. The woman is the hearth in every home. That in pre-patriarchal, pre-Roman emperor, goddess worshiping societies of Europe, the woman was seen as the hearth of the home, the altar of the home. Her body was the altar. Her lap was the altar. Her lap was the altar of every home. In your mother, in her body is your temple, is your altar, is your shrine. That's why every external altar is fashioned after her body. The navel stone in the center, the pool of water representing her womb water. Every temple, every shrine fashioned after your mother's body. Your mother is the God in your home. Your mother is the God in your home. And as the God in your home, she becomes the high priestess of the first coven, which is her babies and her partner and whatever. She becomes the high priestess of her home, the head witch in her personal coven. This is how we have to see the world. This is how we have to envision the world. You understand? So hopefully this was helpful. I think we need to have a lot more discourse about this. Maybe we'll take a completely psychological approach the next time. Maybe we'll talk about the psychological narratives and implications and frames of thought around healing mother wounds and how mother wounds develop. I think that might be just, because we do have to have a holistic approach. But my approach was about the power of our tongue, the inherent power of women, and how what we say, even out of love, what we say that we think we're saying out of love, can harm our children. Don't dress like that. Don't wear your hair like that. The thing, I hesitate saying this, but the thing with my mother was her whole life, probably till this day, she had internalized somehow that it was her fault that I'm fat. I've been fat since I was 10. And so even though she would say to me out of love and out of concern for my health, she would never tell me I'm fat. My mom never told me that. Never said anything like that. But she would always do things like, "Oh, baby, do you want me to enroll you in Weight Watchers?" She knew I was concerned about my weight as a teenager, and I was uncomfortable about my weight as a teenager. But she didn't say anything that would counter my concern about my weight. She would say things out of concern and her perspective and worldview that would fuel those feelings that I had about my weight. So, baby, if you want me to, I'll pay for you to go to Weight Watchers. Do you want to go to the gym with me and Emmanuel? Those kind of things. And even as an adult, after I moved out of the house, my weight, in one way or another, whether directly or indirectly, was always the source of some concern. I know why women do it because I am a mother. And so I know how women can internalize what they see as shortcomings in their children as an inherent weakness in their parenting. That they see that whatever their babies are going through is a reflection of a shortcoming in their parenting. And so it comes back to us in a way that feels like a critique of our being. You feel me? It's like this vicious cycle. Our parents do and say what they say out of love, not all, but I mean, most parents do and say what they do out of love, but the way that it comes off is as a shortcoming on our part. And so I know I do it still. I'm more conscious of it with my daughter, but I still have like my little default moments. Like, okay, is what I'm thinking right now? Is it me? Is it my shit to deal with? You feel me? So that I don't deflect what is a shortcoming of my own or some bullshit in my own mind. I don't deflect or project that shit onto my daughter where it ends up strengthening some inherent insecurity that she has about herself. You feel what I'm saying? So anyway, that should be deep. And even though my mother has been extremely, extremely supportive in my life, she has been supportive financially. She has been supportive in that way because that's how, especially my mother's 65, 66. There are a lot of women of my mother's generation, which are late boomers, who express love that way. I hear a lot of Black women in particular say, I know my mother loved me because of what she sacrificed, because of what she did, but she was not a loving person. She did not display love. She did not display affection. She didn't do hugs or kisses or sit and read or those kinds of things. Her love was expressed through working hard and making sure that the lights didn't go off and doing the jobs of fucking 3 men and shit to do that. And it denied her the ability and the opportunity to show tenderness, to display love in a way that it could be felt in my body. So it's like the love is this kind of cerebral love. I know my mama loved me because no matter how I fuck up, my mama show up for me financially. Right? She does. Even now, my mother shows up for me if I ask her. If I called her and asked her today, Mama, I'm fucked up, I need some help, my mama would help me. I don't call my mama that way. I don't do my mama that way. I try not to ever ask her for money. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but I really will go through. I will put myself through the ringer, and that will be the absolute like, okay, is witching hour, and I can't solve this shit by myself. Let me call my mama. You know what I'm saying? But my mother still, I notice, is uncomfortable with touch. My daughter too. This thing that I don't know what the source of it is, because my daughter was very touchy-feely when she was young, but she is uncomfortable with touch now. She is uncomfortable with my touch. Like, it took me a long time while she was living here for her to allow me to massage her while she was recovering from delivering her son. She is uncomfortable with touch. My mother is the same way. And and so it's a lot of these little intricacies, right? Women with my mother, I know primarily it's like, to me, it's baseless, but my mother suffers a lot from guilt and shame. She, for whatever reason, feels guilty about our childhood, about what she feels like are ways that she didn't show up or couldn't do more or whatever. My mother is a saint. If you had me tell it, my mama is a saint. And so when I say that I thank God, known as Jacqueline Jeanette Futch, for my life, for saying yes to my life, because if she is because of her that I have the destiny that I have, I mean that shit. My mama is a saint. My mama is God. You can't tell me otherwise. Flaws and all, my mama is God. She too is the victim of patriarchy. So whatever shortcoming she got is because she been victimized her whole life by this rotten ass shit. I give my mama hella grace. My mother is a fucking saint. Doesn't mean that we don't have our complications. Doesn't mean that we have not had our complications. But my mother is God. And I have to believe that if I'm going to teach y'all what the fuck I teach y'all. My mother is God. I'm certain of it. I'm clear about it. And so that's the premise that I come from when I talk about the mother, when I talk about the importance of honoring our earth mothers, our birth mothers, if for no other reason than our existence. That if we say that we are grateful for our existence, we cannot bypass our mother. Thank God for my existence. Nah, bitch, thank your mama for your existence first. Then you thank whatever you see God as, whatever you think, whatever you see God is in your imagination, you thank that motherfucker second, because it's your mama that you need to be thanking. Even if she was not right, even if she did you dirty, even if you don't know her name, even if you never met her, even if she could not take care of you, even if she spanked your butt, if you can't say nothing but thank God my mama said yes, and that's all you can say, give it to her. Now, I get it. I get it. I root for women. I rally for women. I give grace to women because I know what a filthy, rotten, fucking corrosive, corruptive, fucking bitch patriarchy is. So I extend a lot of grace to women, especially women that are mothers. I extend an extreme amount of women grace to women. It does not mean that all mothers are extended grace. It doesn't. Not for me. Because I done heard horror stories about mothers, about certain people's mothers. I done heard gruesome horror stories about certain. That ain't who I'm talking about. Not even a little bit. That ain't who I'm talking about. That ain't who I'm talking about. So don't even come for me like that. There are some people who have been mother whose heads need to be on the motherfucking chopping block. No redemption in this life. No redemption in this life. So those peculiar cases ain't what I'm talking about. There are some stories that I have heard, some things that I have seen where there is no redemption in this here life. Bitch, you can try next go round. You can go on and come back next time, and hopefully you will be a better person. But in this life, your assignment is to be fertilizer for trees or some shit. You understand? So that ain't what I'm talking about. That ain't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about there is some grace that we can extend to women that we clearly y'all are funny as hell. There is some grace that we can extend to women that we can see clearly whose programming, whose behavior is indicative of the afflictions of patriarchal conditioning. There's a difference. Do you understand? Because even if you are patriarchally conditioned through the church, the mosque, the whatever, right? There are still inherently things that you will not do, right? You still know the difference between right and wrong. You know what I'm saying? Where we don't know the difference between right and wrong where spanking is concerned, because our conditioning, our patriarchal conditioning teaches us that punishment, the corporal punishment, is of God. Spare the rod, spoil the child. It's in the Bible, so it must be true. That ain't what I'm talking about. I ain't talking about if your mama whipped your ass. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who, regardless of that internal voice that tells them, because they all got it, they all have it, that they would do monstrous things to human beings, especially those human beings that they gave birth to, especially children. Monstrous, unforgivable shit. If it's unforgivable, it's unforgivable. If it's unforgivable, there ain't no jail time. There ain't no sitting and rotting in a jail, bitch. Off with your head. Off with your head. Off with your head. That's the shit. That's the shit I'm on. That's the shit I'm on. That's the shit I'm on. Now look. Java Watson, I am not fucking with you. She's saying, but I want her to pay for my ass whooping. Okay, girl. Listen, I hear you. I understand, child. I understand. And so to each his own. You know, it's for you to say how much grace you want to extend to your people now. I'm just saying that we extend a hell of a lot of grace to an invisible, fictitious Jesus and God Don't even condemn them. Don't even say, damn, Jesus, why you fuck up my house? Like, why you tear my house down in the hurricane? Jesus, like, goddamn, like I go to church every Sunday, motherfucker, like, can I eat? Like, can I live? We don't do that. We give Jesus, we say, thank you, I still got my life. You done took away my house and everything. Thank you. I still got my life. You know what I'm saying? What they say, God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. All the time. No matter how much ruckus he causing in the world, his ass still good. All the time. All the time he good. Y'all extend an extraordinary amount of grace to mythological, fictitious motherfuckers, but can't extend your mama's no grace. No grace. Can't extend your mama no grace. You feel me? That's all I ask of people. If it is possible, can you extend? We extend strangers grace that we don't extend our mothers. Damn sure do. Damn sure do. We extend strangers grace that we would not extend our mothers. We damn sure do. That's because we all patriarchs. That's because we all patriarchs. And the primary enemy of patriarchy is the mother. Is any mother. Is the primary target of all the aggressions of patriarchy, the primary victim of patriarchy, the primary target of all the aggressions of patriarchy is the mother. Anyone in proximity to the mother, we are the targets. So can you extend the mother some grace? Yes, the mother is fucked up. Yes, mothers be doing fucked up shit in their poverty, in their despair, in their isolation, in their demoralization, in the removal of their power, in the forgetting of their power. Yes, they become patriarchs too. They become patriarchal aggressors and agents too. Not willing most of the time. Because at the same time they do fucked up shit, you still recognize my mama loved me. She was a piece of shit. She did terrible shit to me, but I still felt like she loved me. That's what patriarchy does. That's what patriarchy does. You understand? Harper say, I ain't no killer, but don't push me, said Daughter of the Fates. Baby, okay? Listen, I be telling y'all, I be having wicked fantasies out this bitch. I ain't gonna lie. I be having wicked fantasies out this bitch. Okay? When I be thinking about the women in Afghanistan who've just been denied access to education, who can't speak in public places now, I be having wicked fantasies these days. Wicked. Righteously wicked fantasies these days. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I told you I ain't a pacifist. Not by no frame of the imagination am I a pacifist. Tell you, my daddy taught me how to shoot when I was a very little girl. I think I was 8 years old when my daddy taught me how to shoot, taught me how to kill some shit, squirrels and rabbits and shit. I was about the same age when my dad taught me how to use an arrow. He had a big old bullseye, and me, my sister, and my 3 cousins learned archery at a very young age. Learned how to skin rabbits. Listen, I be having wicked fantasies. I be having dreams, glorious dreams of our great ancestor. What was her name? Oh, what was her name? Let me look and see if I can find it. What was her name? Because I don't want to keep calling her the same thing. Hold on, what was her name? Our great revolutionary ancestor. I'm about to find her right now. Hold on. Come on in the room, great revolutionary ancestor doing God's work. Doing God's work, child. Mm-hmm. Hold on. Hey, man. Okay. What was her name? Okay. Apparently, her name is Julia Tofana. Julia Tofana, our great revolutionary ancestress, Julia Tofana, founder and creator of Aqua Tofana, that helped many, many, many women free themselves from the bondage and yoke of marriage, child. Over 600 victims are alleged to have died from Aqua Tofana, mostly husbands. You heard? The active ingredients of the mixture are known, but not how they were blended. Aqua Tofana contained mostly arsenic, lead, and possibly belladonna. It was a colorless, tasteless liquid and therefore easily mixed with water or wine to be served during meals. I be having glorious, glorious, glorious dreams about great revolutionary ancestresses like Julia Tofana doing God's work. Okay. Yes. Yes. Anyway. Yes. Anyway.
Sure, you have face masks and lip balm, but do you have Aqua Tofana?
The hell? Okay. Yeah. Wow. Even we women blame the woman we see every day, but give the invisible Father God a pass. Got to sit with that one. No, that's real shit. That's real shit. That's real shit. That's real shit. Because another episode I was thinking about doing, and I started with this one first, was women stop spell casting on other women. Stop casting spells on other women. I don't give unless they do actual direct dirt to you. Stop casting spells on women. Stop using the power of your ashe to cast spells on other women, on other victims of patriarchy. Stop that. Stop that. You ain't got no smoke for the man, but you got all the smoke for women who look just like you. You got all the fire, all the venom, all the flames for motherfuckers who just as fucked up as you are in the game, but you ain't got no smoke for the man, for the state, for the church, for billionaires. Stop casting spells on women. Some bullshit. Now I'm going to bed. Love you guys. Good night. This was fun. I feel like it was helpful for me, at least to process it in my mind. All right. So I'll see you guys probably sometime this weekend, maybe tomorrow. I can't believe tomorrow's Saturday already. I got so much to do. So though it won't be tomorrow, but definitely, yes, it'll maybe an hour this weekend. Okay. Peace, blessings, power up. And I will see you guys soon. Take care.